What happened to the Liangzhu culture, an advanced society that built massive irrigation systems over 5,000 years ago? Why did the people of Matiat carve an entire underground city that could hold 70,000 people, then just abandon it completely? And the Scythians, nomadic warriors feared by the ancient world, why did their civilization vanish, leaving behind only gold-covered tombs? Why were these civilizations completely erased from history? So around 5,000 years ago, there was this advanced society in what's now eastern China called the Liangzhu culture. They were doing some pretty impressive stuff for their time, building sophisticated water management systems, crafting jade artifacts that showed off their advanced craftsmanship, and their whole civilization ran pretty smoothly. Their irrigation systems were so advanced that some researchers compare them to later Chinese dynasties that came thousands of years later. Pretty amazing, but then out of nowhere, they just vanished. The whole thing collapsed, and for a long time, no one really knew why. But more recently, researchers found evidence that massive floods may have been the culprit here. Sediment layers seem to show that there was this sudden catastrophic event, like a huge monsoon or a massive dam failure that submerged their entire city. Since their writing system, if they even had one, didn't survive, we don't have any records from them explaining what actually happened. All that's left are the ruins and their mysterious jade artifacts, but some historians think they may have been one of the first examples of a lost society with advanced technology, using sophisticated water management methods that were eventually lost over time. This next place was just recently discovered in 2022, hidden away in China's Yunnan province. The Neo-Luchang settlement was once home to the Dian culture, a society that existed about 2,000 years ago. They left behind all these elaborate burial sites filled with these highly detailed bronze artifacts. They had a lot of wealth, and it shows. Again though, at some point they just vanished. There's no records of a war, no evidence of a massive disaster, they just faded away. But archaeologists have found skeletons buried in ways that seem to show something sudden happened. But what? Was it a deadly disease, a violent conflict, a shift in the climate? Well, no one really knows. What we do know is that the Dian were skilled metal workers, famous for the beautifully crafted ornaments that you're looking at now, and their bronze drums, which would have probably been used in ceremonies. They were obviously very talented, but without written records, we can only guess what happened to them. Some believe a sudden pandemic wiped them out, but another theory is that they were just absorbed into the expanding Han Dynasty, and their culture simply faded away into history. Turkey is famous for its underground cities, but Matiat is a whole different level. It was discovered in 2020 beneath the modern town of Midyat, completely by accident during construction work. It's a hidden city estimated to be about 2,000 years old, and we're not talking about just a few rooms here. This place may have housed up to 70,000 people. It had houses, worship areas, storage rooms, and all the essentials for a fully functioning underground society. It's now considered to be the largest known underground city in the world. The question is, why was it built in the first place? Well, some historians think it was used as a hideout for early Christians escaping Roman persecution. Others believe it was more of a long-term settlement with people living underground for much longer periods of time. And given its size, that's very possible. Either way, it was eventually abandoned, sealed off, and forgotten. Was it abandoned because of some rampant disease? Were people just forced to move somewhere else after an invasion or a lack of resources? No one really knows. The Scythians were the ultimate warrior nomads of the ancient world. From around 900 BCE to 200 CE, they ruled the Eurasian steppes, stretching from what's now Ukraine to Mongolia. They were fierce warriors, famous for their horseback archery, and even the Greeks and Persians didn't want to mess with them. They had gold-covered tombs, elaborate tattoos, and a culture that was this mix of brutality and artistry. Of course, seeing as they were nomads, they never built permanent cities, which makes it much harder for archaeologists and historians to get a real sense of what their society looked like. Over time, other groups like the Sarmatians and the Huns absorbed them, and the Scythians just faded out. Their burial mounds, or kurgans, are all that's left, filled with gold, weapons, and skeletons. If the Scythians ever had written records, they didn't survive, so most of what we know about them comes from their enemies, mainly the Greeks and Persians, who again were terrified of them. Some believe that the remnants of the Scythians continued to exist for centuries, blending into other cultures. DNA studies do show that some modern people in Russia and Central Asia still carry Scythian genes. The Harappans, or the Indus Valley Civilization, were way ahead of their time. Existing from around 3300 to 1300 BCE in what is now Pakistan and India, they built massive cities with grid-like layouts, indoor plumbing, and drainage systems, things that even some modern cities still struggle with. They traded with Mesopotamia, had a unique writing system that no one's fully deciphered yet, mind you, and they seemed to be pretty peaceful. There's almost no evidence of warfare or weapons in their ruins, but they aren't around anymore. One theory is that climate change dried up their rivers. Archaeologists have also found some mysterious skeletons in what would have been their streets, which could be evidence of a disease or some catastrophic event that wiped them out. Then there's also the chance that they were gradually absorbed into other cultures, blending into the societies that came after them. But without having figured out their writing system, we just don't know the full story. The Maya are known for their massive cities, but Valeriana, almost nobody talks about it, and that's mainly because it was just discovered in 2024. Hidden in the Yucatan jungle, this was a full-on city filled with pyramids and plazas and ball courts, but it never made it into Spanish records, meaning it was probably abandoned before the conquistadors showed up. Like many other Maya cities, Valeriana was likely a victim of the civilization's mysterious decline. Deforestation, warfare, and droughts are some of the top theories for why the Maya abandoned so many of their cities, and Valeriana is no exception. The jungle is taken over, swallowing the ruins, and for centuries, nobody knew this place was there. It's still being excavated too, so who knows what else could be buried beneath the trees. At one time, St. Thomas, Nevada was a Mormon settlement founded in 1865. It eventually grew into a small but busy town with farms, schools, and a general store, but when the US government decided to build the Hoover Dam, the rising waters of the newly formed Lake Mead swallowed the town, and the people were of course forced to leave as their homes disappeared under water, and for decades St. Thomas stayed submerged. It wasn't until the 2000s, as Lake Mead's water levels dropped, that the ruins of the town re-emerged, and what's left of St. Thomas is now part of the Lake Mead National Recreation Area. You can see the remnants of homes, roads, and an old schoolhouse. At one time, Kish was one of the most powerful cities in ancient Sumer, dating back to around 3100 BCE. It was the first city to rise after a great flood, according to Sumerian king lists, which are lists of kings who supposedly ruled ancient Mesopotamia. They were written on clay tablets with different versions discovered over the years, but anyway, Kish had towering ziggurats, which were these massive pyramid-like temples. They also had advanced irrigation systems and a booming trade network, but despite all that, Kish eventually fell off the map. And what happened? Well, like a lot of ancient cities, it probably got hit with a combination of things. Environmental changes, trade routes may have changed, and the place just became obsolete. Maybe they were invaded. Whatever the case, by the time Babylon took over, Kish was a pile of ruins. Unlike Ur or Uruk, which still get plenty of attention, Kish just faded into obscurity. Its ruins are still out there in modern Iraq, but because of some political problems, they haven't been explored as much as other ancient sites. But for a city that once ruled over Sumer, it's kinda crazy how few people even know it existed. Poverty Point, found in modern-day Louisiana, was a massive prehistoric settlement built around 1700 BCE. It had complex earthworks including mounds and ridges arranged in giant semicircles. This was a major center of trade, with artifacts found from as far as the Great Lakes and the Appalachian Mountains. But Poverty Point was abandoned, and no one really knows why. There's no evidence of warfare, natural disaster, or disease wiping out the people who built it. Some archaeologists believe changes in the climate made the area less livable, forcing everyone to migrate. But the site is still one of the most puzzling archaeological finds in North America, as the people who built it left no written records. Great Zimbabwe was a powerful city-state that existed between the 11th and 15th 9th centuries in what is now Zimbabwe. It was the center of a huge trade network that connected Africa to the Middle East and Asia, dealing in gold, ivory, and other valuable goods. And probably the most famous part of the city is its massive stone walls, built without mortar, standing over 30 feet high in some places. But why was Great Zimbabwe abandoned by the 16th century? There's still a lot of debate on this. Some say it was overpopulation and a lack of resources to keep up with it. Others think political chaos had something to do with it. Now, of course, European explorers who rediscovered the ruins in the 19th century just refused to believe that an African civilization could have built such an advanced city, which led to decades of misinformation and an outright suppression of the history here. Thankfully today, though, Great Zimbabwe is recognized as a major historical site, but even so, we still don't know its full story. You've probably heard of this one. The Great Reset theory says that powerful people, politicians, billionaires, shadowy elites are all working behind the scenes to reshape the world. And not just on an economic or political level, but everything, a total overhaul. Now, this theory has been around for a long time, but it really blew up during the pandemic, especially when the World Economic Forum actually launched an initiative called the Great Reset. It was about rethinking the global economy after the situation, but for some folks, it confirmed their worst fears, that these global players were using this crisis to tighten their grip on power. Now, leaving 2020 and onward aside to discuss the Great Reset on a larger scale, though, what if there's already been a Great Reset? What if we've been through this before? What if there was a highly advanced society that got wiped out or bailed after their own version of a Great Reset? Some people even think the whole idea of a breakaway civilization isn't a new concept at all. It's just the same cycle repeating. A few get too powerful, the system collapses or changes drastically, and the people with the know-how, well, they vanish. In this case, possibly off-world. It's a stretch, sure, but it's also not impossible. If you were a civilization about to hit the self-destruct button, where would you go? Mars is far, deep space, too risky, but the moon? Well, that's right in our backyard. There is a long-running theory that the moon might not just be a chunk of rock, but it could have once served as a refuge for ancient people. The idea is that a highly advanced civilization saw the writing on the wall, whether it was a looming natural disaster, a massive war, whatever, and they got out while they could. Supporters of this theory point to weird stuff seen on the moon. For example, the Blair Cuspids, a group of sharp tower-like structures photographed by the lunar orbiter in 1966. To some, the way they're aligned just doesn't look natural. Then there's the transient lunar phenomenon, flashes of light or odd glows on the moon that have been reported for centuries. Some scientists say they're due to gas escapes or meteor hits, but others wonder if we're seeing activity from something less explainable. Could there be hidden bases tucked away in craters or underground tunnels up there? If a civilization was advanced enough to get off the planet, the moon would make for a pretty decent first stop. Let's stay in that hidden away mindset for a second. Whether it's under the Earth or off in space, there's a ton of talk about secret bases, places where advanced civilizations might still exist or once did. Ever heard of Agartha? It's this supposed underground city deep beneath Earth's surface, usually described as being full of enlightened beings with amazing technology. Stories about Agartha go way back, and while there's no proof it exists, people have claimed to find entrances in places like the Himalayas, the Amazon, and Antarctica. Then there are the off-world bases. According to some conspiracy theorists and supposed whistleblowers, we already have bases set up on the moon and Mars. Some human-made, some not. They say these are used for secret experiments, deep space research, or as escape zones for the ultra-elite. Maps aren't the first thing that comes to mind when you think about lost civilizations, but some of them are just too strange to ignore. One of the most famous is the Piri Reis map, created in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis. Now, there's always been a lot of talk about this map because it seems to show the coastline of Antarctica without ice. Now, Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until the 1800s, and even then it was covered in ice. So how did someone in the early 1500s not only know Antarctica was there long before the place was thought to be discovered, but also know that it wasn't always a frozen wasteland? The map doesn't look like guesstimating either. It lines up surprisingly well with modern satellite scans of the coastline. Skeptics say that maybe Piri-Reis copied from older maps that were copied from even older ones, but that just kicks the question down the road. Who made the original map? And how did they get such accurate data? Well, one theory is this. Maybe there was an advanced civilization thousands of years ago that explored the world, possibly even from the sky, and charted it all out before disappearing from history. Maybe they became so advanced they just left Earth altogether. History is full of civilizations that were at the absolute peak of humanity for the time, and then one day, they were just gone. The Maya, the Indus Valley, Göbekli Tepe, some would say Atlantis, each had elaborate cities, technology, and culture. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, they either collapsed or just walked away from it all. Sure, scholars have explanations: climate change, droughts, war, disease, and yeah, those all make sense, but in some cases it feels like those answers are just patches, like we're guessing. Take Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. It's over 11,000 years old and full of massive carved stones arranged in circles. And what's weird is, after putting so much work into building it, the people who made it buried it on purpose. Not abandoned, buried. Why would anyone do that? Well, some people think these disappearances weren't because of collapse, they were planned exits. Maybe these civilizations didn't vanish, maybe they moved on. And if they had the capability or help from extraterrestrial visitors, maybe that meant heading to space. Here's where things get extra weird, as if they aren't already weird. The Black Knight satellite is this alleged object orbiting Earth that some believe has been up there for 13,000 years or more. Think about that, long before humans ever got off the ground. The legend began in the 50s when people claimed the US military had detected a satellite when none should have existed. In 1998, the story resurfaced again when astronauts on the STS-88 mission took photos of a strange dark object floating above Earth. NASA says it was a thermal blanket that drifted away during a spacewalk, but if you look at the photos, it definitely doesn't look like a blanket. Believers say the Black Knight could be an ancient probe, either alien or, and this is key here, that it may have been built by a civilization from Earth that reached space long before us, sending a satellite into orbit that's been watching Earth ever since. Now, as for why NASA would be hiding it, I mean, that's anyone's guess. I'm just here to make YouTube videos for your entertainment, but if an advanced ancient society did leave Earth, it would make sense to leave something behind to keep an eye on things. Everyone loves a good UFO story, but some of them go beyond lights in the sky. We're talking about craft that defy physics, like making 90-degree turns at insane speeds, hovering without propulsion, or just disappearing. The 2004 USS Nimitz Tic Tac incident is one of the most famous cases of this. Pilots saw this smooth, white, pill-shaped object darting around. It had no wings, no exhaust, and moved in ways nothing built by humans can. Well, what if things like this mysterious object aren't alien ships, but human technology from a breakaway civilization that left Earth long ago? Maybe they show up every now and again to check on us, observe how life is evolving here on Earth. Let's talk about Mars. Evidence suggests it might have been habitable a long time ago. There are dry riverbeds, ice deposits, even traces of methane, all signs that the red planet used to be very different. That maybe it could have even housed life. But if so, then where did it all go? Well, Mars is inhospitable now, but maybe ages ago, when Mars was very different than it is today, the beings living there saw the changes happening and left. And where'd they go? Well, possibly here. When the Martians arrived on this planet, they brought their knowledge and technology with them, helping our ancestors advance. Maybe that's where sudden bursts of knowledge and architectural skill came from. Stories of sky gods or beings from the stars show up in mythologies all over the world. Could these just be memories of ancient Martians who settled in and blended with early human societies? Over the years, we've found some pretty bizarre stuff buried in the dirt that seems way too advanced for the time it supposedly came from. Take the Antikythera mechanism, for example. This thing was pulled out of a shipwreck off the coast of Greece and dates back to around 100 BCE. At first glance, it looks like a pile of rusted gears, but once researchers got into it, they realized it was basically an ancient analog computer. They could predict eclipses eclipses, track the movement of the planets. It was way ahead of its time. Now, the standard explanation is that some Greek genius figured out how to build this thing using what they had at the time, but that doesn't really explain it all. What if they learned it from someone or something else? And that's not the only example, far from it. In Tanzania's Olduvai Gorge, scientists found 1.5 million year old bone tools shaped with an exceptional level of precision. They were more than just sticks sharpened on rocks. They were crafted from hippo and elephant bones in ways that showed some real skill. Now, I don't know, it's just kind of fun to wonder what if ancient civilizations were more advanced than we give them credit for. Maybe even advanced enough to go somewhere else, if you know what I mean. To bring it all together, let's talk about the breakaway civilization theory. It suggests that at some point in modern history, a small group of humans developed technology far beyond what the rest of us have. Maybe they got it through discovery, maybe through contact with something not from around here. Either way, they kept it to themselves. The idea is that this group broke away, literally and figuratively. They set up their own society, possibly off-planet, and now live in total secrecy. Whistleblowers have claimed that there are secret space programs and alliances with alien species. It sounds pretty nuts, but again, it's fun to think about. If some group had access to clean energy and anti-gravity or faster than light travel, they wouldn't need to stick around. They could go wherever they wanted. And maybe they're watching us right now, waiting to see if we catch up.
Starting off this list today, we have the Black Sea Labyrinth. Our first stop takes us to Europe's mysterious Black Sea, where we encounter something that looks straight out of a sci-fi thriller. A network of underwater passages that some are calling the Black Sea Labyrinth. High-resolution sonar imaging has uncovered complex patterns beneath the surface. These formations appear as if someone meticulously planned a maze, with channels, corridors, and interconnected rooms stretching across the seabed. While some experts suggest these could be natural formations, others argue that they might have been purposefully constructed. Could these underwater corridors have been designed as defensive structures, secret passageways, or even ritual spaces by an ancient civilization facing rising sea levels? The labyrinth's location is especially eerie because the Black Sea itself underwent dramatic changes about 7,500 years ago when a sudden influx of water transformed it from a freshwater lake to the saltwater sea we know today. This timing might coincide with the civilization trying to escape the rising tides, leaving behind mysterious hidden structures as a legacy of their existence. Our journey now takes us to the sun-kissed waters of the Mediterranean, where divers have uncovered what appears to be ancient temples submerged along the coasts of Italy and Greece. These underwater ruins feature elaborate carvings, column remnants, and intricate alignments that suggest they were once places of worship or communal gathering. Some of the structures are aligned with celestial events, indicating that their builders had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. Although many of these temples are in a state of ruin, the precision of their construction challenges our assumptions about ancient technology. How did these early peoples achieve such architectural mastery without modern tools, and why were these sacred sites abandoned to the sea? Recent studies have shown that some of the temple's orientations correspond with rare astronomical events, possibly serving as ancient observatories. This revelation not only deepens the mystery, but also hints at a lost knowledge of the cosmos that these ancient builders possessed. The warm turquoise waters of the Caribbean have long been a favorite for vacationers, but beneath their sparkling surfaces may lie the remains of an entirely different kind of civilization. Recent underwater surveys near several lesser explored Caribbean islands have revealed stone structures and foundations that predate known historical records. These ruins suggest the presence of coastal settlements with advanced skills in architecture, navigation, and trade. Some researchers theorize that these ruins might represent a network of pre-Columbian societies that were once thriving along the Caribbean coastline. Their discovery challenges the traditional timeline of human settlement in the region and hints at a complex, interconnected world that existed long before European contact. Despite their potential importance, these sites have received relatively little attention compared to more famous underwater ruins. This oversight means that every new piece of evidence could dramatically reshape our understanding of ancient Caribbean cultures. Often overshadowed by more dramatic discoveries, the Baltic Sea holds its own set of underwater mysteries. In the cold, brackish waters of northern Europe, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of human activity that dates back thousands of years. Researchers have found remnants of structures ranging from potential ritual sites to what might have been entire settlements preserved in astonishing detail. The Baltic's unique conditions have allowed these features to remain intact, offering us a rare glimpse into a bygone era. Folk tales in this region have long spoken of sunken kingdoms and lost cities. Now, modern technology is starting to confirm that there could be grains of truth in these stories. The possibility that entire communities vanished beneath rising waters adds an eerie dimension to the natural history of the Baltic Sea. Some underwater sites in the Baltic have been found near ancient shipwrecks and trade routes, suggesting that these lost communities were once a part of a broader network of exchange and cultural interaction across northern Europe. Heading over to North America, divers in the Great Lakes region have reported encountering mysterious stone circles resting on the lake beds. These formations, while not as famous as their terrestrial counterparts, hint at sophisticated prehistoric activity. Some researchers believe these underwater stone circles may have been constructed for astronomical or ceremonial purposes. The arrangement of the stones appears to correlate with celestial events, suggesting that ancient peoples might have used them to track the movements of the stars and the planets. Although these structures remain relatively unexplored compared to well-known stone circles on land, they raise fascinating questions about the cultural and scientific knowledge of North America's early inhabitants. Were these circles used as calendars, religious sites, or perhaps markers for territorial boundaries? Recent dives and sonar imaging have revealed that some of these stone formations are far more extensive than previously thought, hinting at the possibility of a widespread tradition that has been kept hidden beneath centuries of water and sediment. Next up, we are diving deep into the realm of underwater cave art found in remote regions such as parts of the Mediterranean and the Yucatan Peninsula. These hidden galleries offer a silent yet powerful testimony to ancient cultures. In submerged caves, explorers have discovered intricate petroglyphs and paintings etched into rock surfaces. These artworks depict mysterious symbols, human figures, and animals. Some experts believe that these artworks might represent a form of communication or even a lost language. The symbols don't match any known scripts, raising the possibility that they could be the last remaining traces of an underwater civilization's cultural and religious beliefs. The isolation and inaccessibility of these underwater caves have allowed the art to remain remarkably well preserved. Each new discovery not only adds a piece to the puzzle of ancient human expression, but also deepens the mystery surrounding the civilizations that created them. Traveling to the coast of Japan, where off the island of Yonaguni lies an underwater structure that looks almost too perfect to be natural. Discovered in the 1980s, the Yonaguni monument features remarkably straight edges, sharp angles, and terraces that some claim resemble steps or even ancient pyramids. Researchers are divided. Some believe this is a naturally occurring formation shaped by tectonic activity and erosion, while others argue that its geometric precision points to human craftsmanship. Proponents of the man-made theory suggest that the precise right-angled formations and the apparent staircase features could indicate that an advanced civilization once lived or at least built something here. Recent sonar mapping and 3D reconstructions have revealed details that some experts argue would be nearly impossible to form naturally. Whether you lean toward the natural or the man-made explanation, the Yonaguni monument is a striking example of how the ocean can hide mysteries that challenge conventional archaeology. Next, let's head to the Bahamas, where an underwater formation known as Bimini Road has fueled countless speculations about Atlantis, the legendary legendary lost city. Found in 1968 near North Bimini Island, this curious linear arrangement of stone blocks stretches along the seabed. To some, its layout seems too deliberate to just be a random collection of rocks. Supporters argue that the aligned stones, with their subtle interlocking edges, might be remnants of a sophisticated road or wall built by an ancient civilization, perhaps even a piece of Atlantis itself. Skeptics, however, attribute the formation to natural sedimentary processes and fracturing of the local limestone. Advanced underwater imaging techniques have revealed what might be additional hidden linear structures beneath the main formation, suggesting that there is more to this site than meets the eye. Whether it's an ancient roadway or an elaborate natural occurrence, Bimini Road keeps the mystery of Atlantis very much alive. Next, we are talking about Thonis Heracleion. Not all underwater discoveries are wrapped in myth. Some, like the ancient Egyptian city of Thonis Heracleion, have well-documented historical roots. Once a bustling port city near Alexandria, Thonis Heracleion sank beneath the waves after centuries of neglect and natural calamities. Rediscovered in the early 2000s, this lost city has yielded statues, inscriptions, and everyday artifacts that paint a vivid picture of life during its heyday. The ruins offer a rare glimpse into the maritime trade networks of the ancient world. This site's extensive remains not only showcase the architectural prowess of ancient Egyptians, but also underscore how natural events, like earthquakes and flooding, can erase entire civilizations from our maps, only for them to reappear centuries later as underwater time capsules. Some of the inscriptions found here hint at interactions with other ancient cultures, suggesting that this city was a cosmopolitan melting pot. Its rediscovery has helped historians piece together trade routes and cultural exchanges that spanned the Mediterranean. Our final discovery takes us off the coast of Gujarat in India. Underwater archaeologists have discovered ruins that many believe are linked to the fabled city of Dwarka, a metropolis steeped in myth and mentioned in ancient texts. Excavations in the region have revealed stone structures, remnants of urban planning, and artifacts that suggest a thriving city once existed here. Some carbon dating techniques have pointed to dates that, if accurate, push back the timeline by thousands of years, making this one of the oldest urban settlements known to man. The story of Dwarka has long been dismissed as a myth, until now. The underwater ruins hint at a civilization with advanced knowledge of construction and urban planning, and they mesh intriguingly with ancient narratives about divine cities and heroic eras. Researchers have also discovered intricate network patterns that resemble ancient harbors and trade routes, suggesting that Dwarka wasn't isolated, but was a significant hub for maritime trade in its time. The evidence is tantalizing, and while debates continue, Dwarka's submerged remains force us to rethink the boundaries between myth and history. Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Valeriana, Mexico. We are starting off with the most recent discovery, which was just announced this week. Deep within the dense jungles of Mexico's Campeche state, a massive Maya city, lost for centuries beneath the canopy, has been accidentally rediscovered, turning our understanding of ancient civilizations on its head. PhD student Luke Ald Thomas stumbled upon this hidden metropolis, now named Valeriana, while sifting through online LiDAR data intended for environmental monitoring. Using this laser mapping technology, which reveals structures buried under thick vegetation, he uncovered pyramids, sports fields, causeways connecting districts, and amphitheaters sprawled across an area the size of Edinburgh. Dating back to 750 to 850 AD, Valeriana may have been home to 30,000 to 50,000 people, more than the region's population today. Astonishingly, this lost city lies just a 15-minute hike from a major road near Ishpuil, yet it remained hidden because the jungle had entirely reclaimed it. The discovery challenges the old notion that the tropics were inhospitable to advanced civilizations, unveiling instead a rich and complex Maya culture that thrived here, with thousands of buildings, including including plazas with temple pyramids and evidence of sophisticated urban planning, Valeriana offers a captivating glimpse into a world that was never meant to be found. In our number 9 spot today, we have El Mirador in Guatemala. Hidden deep within the jungles of northern Guatemala is El Mirador, an ancient Maya city that remained lost for nearly 2,000 years. Once a thriving metropolis and the capital of the Maya civilization, it housed around 200,000 people and featured monumental structures like the Ladanta Pyramid, one of the largest pyramids in the world by volume. Archaeologists like Richard Hansen have been unearthing its secrets, revealing a sophisticated society that existed centuries earlier than previously thought. The city boasts massive pyramids, intricate friezes depicting mythological hero twins, and an extensive network of causeways connecting it to other Maya sites. Isn't it astounding that such an advanced civilization could vanish into the jungle only to reshape our understanding of history when it was rediscovered? In our number 8 spot today, we have Angamuco in Mexico. Nestled in the dense forests of Michoacan, Angamuco was an ancient city built by the Purepeche civilization, which were fierce rivals of the Aztecs. Founded around 900 CE, this sprawling metropolis is thought to have been home to up to 100,000 people at its peak, making it comparable in size to modern-day cities. The city remained concealed under thick vegetation until 2007, when archaeologists stumbled upon it. But it wasn't until 2011 that the true scale of Angamuco was revealed thanks to LiDAR technology. By shooting lasers from airplanes to penetrate the jungle canopy, researchers mapped out an area covering about 26 square kilometers or 10 square miles, uncovering thousands of structures that had been hidden for over a millennium. Angamuco is astonishing for its sheer size and complexity. The city features an intricate network of pyramids, plazas, roadways, and residential areas. What's particularly fascinating is its urban planning. Unlike other Mesoamerican cities that were built around a central core, Angamuco's structures are spread out evenly, almost like a grid. This challenges previous notions about urban development in ancient civilization. Isn't it kind of mind-blowing that such a massive city, bustling with life centuries ago, could just vanish into the jungle and escape our notice until recently? It definitely makes you wonder what other secrets are still hidden beneath the trees, waiting to reshape our understanding of history. In our number 7 spot today, we have Kokhair in Cambodia. Hidden deep within the remote jungles of northern Cambodia lies Kokhair, a long-forgotten city that once served as the capital of the Khmer Empire from 928 to 944 CE. For centuries, this remarkable place was swallowed by dense forests, its temples and monuments concealed by overgrown vegetation. It wasn't until French explorers ventured into the area in the late 19th century that Kokhair resurfaced from obscurity. The site is famous for its unique 7-tiered pyramid, which stands out with its striking and unconventional architecture, unlike anything else in the region. Scattered throughout the area are numerous temples adorned with intricate stone sculptures, offering a glimpse into a brief but significant period when the Khmer capital shifted away from Angkor. While many of these artifacts were once targets of looting, they are now protected, allowing us to appreciate the distinct artistic styles and cultural innovations of that era. In our number 6 spot today, we have Calakmul, Mexico. Hidden deep within the dense jungles of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula lies Calakmul, an ancient Maya city that was once a dominant force in the Maya world. After its decline around the 10th century CE, this place was swallowed by the forest, its massive pyramids and palaces forgotten for nearly a millennium. It wasn't until 1931 that biologist Cyrus L. Lundell, while conducting an area aerial survey spotted the towering structures peeking through the canopy and brought this lost city back into the world's attention. Archaeologists have since uncovered over 6,000 structures, including some of the tallest pyramids ever built by the Maya. Calakmul was a fierce rival to Tikal in present-day Guatemala, and the discoveries here have shed incredible light on ancient Maya politics, warfare, and the complex dynamics between competing city-states. In our number 5 spot today, we have Ciudad Perdida. Hidden deep within Colombia's Sierra Nevada mountains lies Ciudad Perdida, the Lost City, an awe-inspiring ancient metropolis built by the Tairona people around 800 CE, centuries before Machu Picchu. Swallowed by dense rainforest and forgotten for over a millennia, it remained hidden until treasure hunters stumbled upon its moss-covered stone steps in 1972. The site boasts a complex network of tiled roads, terraces, and circular plazas carved into the mountainside, showcasing the Tairona's remarkable urban planning and engineering skills. Exploring Ciudad Perdida not only unveils the secrets of a civilization that thrived in harmony with nature, but also leaves us wondering how many more lost worlds are waiting to be discovered beneath the jungle canopy. In our number 4 spot today, we have the lost city of the monkey god in Honduras. Hidden deep within a rainforest in Honduras lies the legendary lost city of the monkey god, also known as La Ciudad Blanca or the White City. For centuries, explorers and locals spoke of this mysterious place, shrouded in myth and said to be filled with immense treasures and guarded by ancient deities. In 2015, a team of researchers made a groundbreaking discovery using LiDAR technology, which allowed them to see through the dense jungle canopy from the air. What they found were structures hinting at a complex pre-Columbian society that had been lost to time. As archaeologists ventured into the untouched terrain, they uncovered plazas, elaborate earthworks, and a stunning cache of stone sculptures depicting animals and possibly deities, all evidence of a civilization that thrived between 1000 and 1400 CE. The discovery not only confirmed age-old legends, but also provided invaluable insights into a forgotten chapter of human history. In our number 3 spot today, we have Cuelap in Peru. Hidden high in the cloud forests of northern Peru lies Cuelap, an ancient fortress built by the enigmatic Chachapoya culture around the 6th century CE. Overgrown and concealed by dense vegetation for centuries, it wasn't until the 19th century that explorers rediscovered this monumental site. Cuelap boasts massive stone walls soaring up to 60 feet high and encompasses hundreds of circular stone buildings perched atop a mountain ridge. These architectural marvels offer a tantalizing glimpse into the lives of the warriors of the clouds, as the Chachapoya are known. The sheer scale and sophistication of Cuelap rival that of more famous sites, yet it remains one of history's best kept secrets. In our number 2 spot today, we have the secret Amazon city. Hidden for millennia beneath the dense canopy of the Amazon rainforest, an enormous ancient city has been unearthed in the Upano region of eastern Ecuador, radically altering our understanding of Amazonian history. Previously, it was believed that the Amazon was home only to nomadic tribes or small settlements. But this city, built around 2,500 years ago and inhabited for up to a millennia, tells a very different story. Archaeologists discovered an astonishing network of roads and canals connecting over 6,000 rectangular platforms, each about 20 meters by 10 meters and up to 3 meters high, arranged in groups around central plazas. Some structures, like the massive 140 by 40 meter platform at Quilamope, suggests ceremonial purposes. This sophisticated road system includes straight paths that extend up to 25 kilometers, featuring impressive right angles and engineering that managed the abundant water through canals. Nestled in the shadow of a volcano that enriched the soil, but may have also led to the society's demise, this metropolis challenges Eurocentric views of civilization by revealing a complex, interconnected urban society thriving in the Amazon. Who would have imagined that beneath the jungle's lush greenery lay a city possibly rivaling the size and complexity of ancient highland civilizations like Machu Picchu? And finally, in our number 1 spot today, we have Mahendra Parvata. Hidden deep within Cambodia's dense jungles lies an ancient city from the Khmer Empire that remained concealed for centuries. Although explorers had inklings of its existence, it wasn't until 2012 that the true extent of this lost city was revealed, thanks to archaeologists Jean-Baptiste Chavance and Damien Evans using cutting-edge LiDAR technology. This airborne laser scanning peeled back the jungle canopy to unveil an elaborate grid of temples, roads, and ponds, all dating back to 802 AD, making it about 350 years older than Angkor Wat. Founded by Jayavarman II, the city's name means Mountain of the Great Indra, referencing the sacred mountain where he was crowned the first king of the Khmer Empire. Even the French archaeologist Philippe Stern, who explored the area in 1936, only scratched the surface of its secrets.
El Dorado is often pictured as this legendary city of gold, but its origins are actually tied to a real tradition among the indigenous people of South America. The term originally referred to a king, El Rey Dorado, who was said to cover himself in gold dust and submerge himself in Lake Guatavita as part of a ritual. Over time, explorers and treasure hunters turned this story into an idea of an entire city filled with gold, which spurred on all these wild adventures and quests. In the 16th century, Spanish conquistadors searched for El Dorado across the Andes, exploring areas in present-day Colombia and Venezuela. Some actually claimed to have seen evidence of golden cities filled with riches, but the mythical golden city of El Dorado itself was never found. The idea has persisted in pop culture, though. I must have seen that animated El Dorado movie like 12 times when I was little. Now, could this place really have existed though? Well, maybe not exactly how it was described, but there were incredibly impressive cities in the region at the time with architecture that would have been otherworldly to the Spanish. Agartha is said to be a hidden city or civilization deep within the earth. The idea became popular in the 19th century, especially with the writings of people like Jules Verne. Later, a number of occultists also began talking about it. And according to these stories, Agartha is home to advanced beings with superior technology and knowledge, living in harmony away from the chaos of the surface world. Many believe that Agartha is connected to a series of underground tunnels and cities, with one of the most famous entrances said to be in Tibet. It's said to be this vast, lush paradise filled with light and greenery. Agartha is, pun intended, at the center of the hollow earth theory, that the planet has these large spaces beneath it that are inhabited by ancient civilizations. Agartha is also sometimes associated with spiritual teachings, claiming that its inhabitants have mastered enlightenment and hold secrets to the universe. Some conspiracy theories even suggest that world leaders have access to this place, possibly even coming from there. Along with the enlightened, more human-like beings, Agartha is also said to be home to malicious reptilians who've been sneaking to the surface, disguising themselves as humans and integrating themselves into our society in prominent positions in politics in order to control us from the inside. The legend of the lost continent of Mu is said to be a massive landmass that existed in the Pacific Ocean and supposedly sank beneath the waves thousands of years ago. Mu started being talked about after a book by British author, engineer, and inventor James Churchward, who claimed to have discovered ancient tablets that described Mu as a highly advanced civilization. And according to him, Mu is home to millions of people with impressive cities and incredible technology, and that the people of Mu were responsible for a lot of the ancient cultures around the world, like those in Egypt and Mesopotamia. Basically, that they spread their knowledge before their continent was lost. Now, today, Churchward's theories are mostly considered pseudoscience, but there are some people who believe, or are just fascinated by the idea that there might be remnants of Mu submerged underwater, and there have been expeditions to try and pinpoint where it could have been. There are even those who think that underwater structures like the Yonaguni Monument in Japan could have been part of Mu. The mythical city of the Caesars is said to be hidden somewhere in the Andes Mountains of South America, a magnificent city filled with riches and advanced technology ruled by powerful kings, very similar to El Dorado. The legend became popular in the 19th century with a number of explorers claiming that they'd heard tales of this city from locals, and according to the stories, the city of the Caesars is filled with gold and precious gems. Some stories even say that the kings never aged there, and have all this secret knowledge about the universe. Some believe that the city might be protected by natural barriers or perhaps even magical forces, making it nearly impossible to discover. There are tales of expeditions that have gotten close but ultimately failed to find it. Thule. Now, this is a term that's appeared in ancient texts, often referring to a distant northern land. The Greek explorer Pytheas Massalia mentioned Thule in the 4th century BCE, describing it as a place of extreme cold, possibly located in the Arctic regions. Some scholars suggest it could refer to locations like Iceland, Greenland, or the Shetland Islands. Much later in history, though, the concept of Thule was adopted by an occultist group called the Thule Society in Germany. This group was founded in 1918, shortly after World War I, and the society promoted this mythological version of Germanic history and culture, and a belief in an ancient race known as the Aryans. They were fascinated with Nordic mythology and the idea of a lost land that connected to their vision of racial purity. You can see where all this was going. Some of those prominent members of the Thule Society, like Heinrich Himmler, went on to hold prominent positions in the Third Reich. The Chachapoyas were often called the warriors of the clouds, which is incredibly cool. They were an ancient culture that lived once again in the Andes, specifically in the cloud forests of what is now northern Peru. They were around until the Inca Empire conquered them just before the Spanish arrived in the 16th century. The Chachapoyas were tough fighters and resisted Inca control, which made their incorporation into the empire a drawn-out, brutal process. Now, most of what we know about these folks comes from the accounts of Inca chroniclers and Spanish conquistadors, so the info is pretty biased. Other than that, though, we do have some archaeological evidence, like ruins, pottery, burial sites, which tells us a fair amount about them. One of the most impressive sites is Cuelap, a fortress with these massive stone walls and buildings. Sadly, by the 18th century, though, their population had been greatly reduced, mostly thanks to the impact of Spanish colonization. The Chachapoyas had a unique culture, and even though they were absorbed by the Incas, traces of their heritage can still be found in modern indigenous people in Peru. Some locals still hold on to traditions and customs that may have been passed down from the Chachapoyas. Hyperborea is a legendary place from ancient Greek mythology described as a paradise far to the north, somewhat similar to Thule. And according to the myths, the Hyperboreans were a race of giant, peaceful people who lived in this ideal land where the sun, surprisingly, even though it was so far north, shone 24/7. It's said to be a place free from war, sickness, and all the troubles that plagued the rest of humanity. Stories about Hyperborea were mostly passed down through writings from ancient historians like Herodotus and Pindar, describing the land as this lush place filled with natural beauty and abundant resources. Some even claimed that Hyperboreans had advanced knowledge and skills in arts and crafts far beyond what was known in the rest of the world. The Greeks had various theories about where Hyperborea was located. Some placed it in northern Europe, like Britain or Scandinavia. Others suggested it could be further east, possibly even in Asia. Lemuria was a hypothetical continent proposed by zoologist Philip Schlater in 1864. He suggested that it sank beneath the Indian Ocean. The place was said to be a sunken land bridge and was originally used to explain why lemur fossils were found in Madagascar and India, but not in Africa or the Middle East. Then biologist Ernst Haeckel claimed Lemuria could have been the ancestral home of humans. Over time, Lemuria started being written about by occultists, especially Helena Blavatsky, who integrated it into her mystical beliefs. Once plate tectonics became a known thing, though, the sunken land bridge of Lemuria became an outdated theory, but there are remnants of this theory that are still around in certain conspiratorial circles. Percy Harrison Fawcett was a British explorer known for his expeditions in South America, particularly in the Amazon. He made 7 major trips between 1906 and 1924. He was generally well received by the locals, who said he was a pretty respectable man, which is nice to hear about an explorer from that part of time. In 1908, Fawcett traced the source of the Rio Verde, and as he continued to explore these uncharted territories, he began speaking about a lost city he called Z. He'd heard legends about this sophisticated civilization that once existed in the Amazon, and he believed that remnants of it could still be found. His theories were partly based on a document known as Manuscript 512, which detailed an ancient city with ruins, statues, and hieroglyphics discovered by a Portuguese explorer in the 18th century. After serving in World War I, Fawcett returned to Brazil. He was determined to find this lost city of Z, and in 1924 he embarked on his final expedition with his son Jack and friend Rayleigh Rimmel. The last message from Fawcett was sent on May 29, 1925. After that, they vanished. The Royal Geographical Society declared them lost in 1927. They were never found. Atlantis, a legendary island first mentioned by Plato. According to Plato, Atlantis was a powerful naval empire that existed over 9,000 years before his time, ruling huge territories until it attempted to conquer Athens. This angered the gods, leading to Atlantis sinking into the ocean. Now, is Atlantis just a work of fiction, or could there be more to it than that? Some scholars think that there may be elements of the story that were inspired by real events. Ancient disasters could have contributed to this myth of a lost civilization that sank. Throughout history, there have been countless interpretations of Atlantis. Some ancient philosophers viewed it as more of a metaphor for arrogance and the dangers of imperialism. Others just believed it to be a straight-up factual event. Crantor, an ancient Greek philosopher, claimed that Egyptian priests had evidence of its existence. Now, over the centuries, a number of locations have been theorized for Atlantis, and it's anywhere from sites in the Mediterranean to Antarctica. Real or not, though, it's hard not to say Atlantis isn't still alive to this day. It might sound a bit corny, but the myths and legends about it, the conspiracies about its existence, kinda keep it alive in a way. Well, exciting news, everyone. A story about the discovery of a long-lost city in the Amazon just came out this year. Scientists have uncovered a massive ancient city hidden deep in the Amazon rainforest in the Apano area of eastern Ecuador. This place was buried under thick vegetation for thousands of years. For ages, we thought the Amazon was home to small nomadic groups or tiny villages, but this city proves that sophisticated urban societies once existed there. Professor Stephen Rothstein, who led the research, said, "This is older than any other site we know in the Amazon. We have a Eurocentric view of civilization, but this shows we have to change our idea about what is culture and civilization." The researchers used this super cool LiDAR technology, which is basically a high-tech method of scanning the ground from above, and discovered around 6,000 rectangular platforms and a network of roads and canals. One of the platforms measures 459 by 131 feet. What's also wild is that this society seemed to have been even bigger than the famous Maya civilizations in Central America. Jose Ariarte, an archaeology professor, stated, "Imagine that you discovered another civilization like the Maya, but with completely different architecture, land use, and ceramics." I mean, how cool is that? This discovery challenges everything we thought we knew about the Amazon. Professor Rothstein had apparently been warned against doing the research because many believed that no ancient groups like this lived in the Amazon, but in his own words, he was just stubborn enough to go ahead and do it anyway. They're planning to explore an adjoining area just as big, so who knows what else will be revealed in the very near future. Angkor Wat is an ancient Hindu-Buddhist temple complex found in Cambodia. Guinness World Records lists it as the largest religious structure in the entire world, so it's quite the sight. It was mostly neglected after the 16th century and wasn't known to the Western world until about 1860. When a French explorer named Henri Mahot popularized it in Europe with his travel notes, writing, "One of these temples, a rival to that of Solomon, and erected by some ancient Michelangelo, might take an honorable place beside our most beautiful buildings." It is grander than anything left to us by Greece or Rome. High praise, but then he went on to describe the locals as savages, so that kind of ruins it. Angkor Wat is pretty spectacular, but it's all that's left of what used to be a much larger city. Some say it was even bigger than modern-day New York. Now, in terms of the size of the area it covered, I'm not talking about population. At its peak, Angkor was likely home to hundreds of thousands of people though, making it one of the largest urban centers in the world at the time. The city had an advanced irrigation system with canals and reservoirs, but over time the soil started to deplete, affecting crops and food production. Some researchers also believe droughts could have hit the region, and by the 15th century the city itself had mostly been left behind, but the temple complex of Angkor Wat was never completely abandoned. Derinkuyu is quite literally buried. It's an ancient underground city in Turkey that likely started being built around the 8th to 7th century BCE, but it wasn't fully formed until about 780 to 1180 CE, when it was used as a refuge during the Arab-Byzantine Wars, giving people shelter and protection against invasions. It's about 280 feet deep and can shelter around 20,000 people, along with their livestock and food supplies. It's an insanely cool multiple level complex with large stone doors used to close off each floor separately, offering protection from the threats from above. It was built with wine and oil presses, stables, storage rooms, and even chapels. One room was believed to have been used as a religious school, with nearby spaces acting as studies. One of the coolest features is the deep ventilation shaft, which also worked as a well, so that the people living underground could have access to water. Derinkuyu continued being used over the centuries during various invasions, but eventually it was forgotten and lay hidden for years until a homeowner discovered it entirely by accident while renovating in 1963. They'd chased a chicken that ran into a hole in their basement only to find an entire network of underground tunnels. By 1969, parts of it were opened to the public, and today you can explore about half of this subterranean city. The Italian hilltop town of Orvieto has an entire network of underground tunnels that were kept secret for centuries. The underground city dates back to the ancient Etruscans. These early inhabitants started carving out tunnels in the volcanic rock to create wells and cisterns, and over time it evolved into a massive subterranean maze with over 1,200 interconnected tunnels and grottos. Some of the chambers contain remnants of Etruscan sanctuaries where ancient rituals took place, but these tunnels were used up until World War II and in every era in between. It was used for storage and refuge during tough times in the Roman era, the Middle Ages, and again, most recently, World War II, where parts of the underground network were used as bomb shelters. Again, the tunnels were kept secret for a long time, only made known to outsiders in recent years. Next up, we have the Özkonak underground city, again in Turkey. It's a network of tunnels carved into volcanic granite, connecting larger areas, and even has a pipe communication system that links all the different levels. It was rediscovered in 1972 by a farmer named Latif Akar, who was curious as to where all his excess water was going. He decided to investigate himself and ended up coming across this underground room. And then it was excavated, and it turned out to be a giant city that could house up to 60,000 people. Today, 4 floors of it are open to the public, but there are a total of 10 floors, reaching a depth of about 131 feet. Özkonak was built with some pretty interesting defensive capabilities too. Holes were built above the tunnels so that defenders could dump hot sand on intruders. Seems like nobody does underground cities better than Turkey, because we have another one on the list. Kaymakli. This site was first opened to tourists in 1964, and it's believed to have been built in the 8th to 7th centuries BCE, carved out of soft volcanic rock. As time went on, especially during the Byzantine era, the city expanded significantly to protect its inhabitants from raids. Kaymakli is actually connected to Derinkuyu through a network of tunnels spanning over 5.5 miles. And today, some of these tunnels are still used for storage, stables, and cellars. The tunnels are a bit different from the ones in Derinkuyu. They're lower, narrower, and more steeply inclined. The 4 floors open to visitors are designed around ventilation shafts, which were of course very important for survival underground. On the first floor, you'll find a stable and a stone door leading to a church. Lower down, you'll you'll find a church, storage areas, kitchens, and block formations that were used for cold copper processing. Let's talk about Thonis, an ancient city that's now submerged beneath the Mediterranean Sea. This Egyptian port city was located near the mouth of the Nile River and was once a hub for trade, especially with Greece and other Mediterranean regions. Thonis was very important in ancient Egypt's economy and was filled with these grand temples and statues dedicated to gods and goddesses, but then it sank beneath the sea, and for centuries it was lost and forgotten until it was rediscovered by underwater archaeologists in 2000. And along with the remnants of the city itself, divers found these remarkably well-preserved artifacts like statues and pottery. Actun Tonikil Mcnal, or ATM for short, is an incredible cave in Belize full of ancient Maya history. Ceramics, fascinating stoneware, and a famous skeleton have all been found here, and more. The famous skeleton in question is known as the Crystal Maiden, believed to be that of a 17-year-old boy. His bones have calcified over time, giving them a sparkling, crystallized look. Hence the name. A lot of the ceramics found here have what are called kill holes, which were made to release spirits, meaning this cave was probably used for ceremonial practices. The cave is just stunning, the type of thing you'd see in an Indiana Jones movie. You'll also have a variety of wildlife here. Bats, crabs, tropical fish, otters can go here, but not on your own. Tourism is carefully managed, so you can explore it with a tour guide. Makes sense, they want to make sure the place is preserved. Plus, it can be pretty dangerous. The main cave system stretches about 3 miles long, with sections that can get pretty tight. And during heavy rain, the river level rises, in which case it's completely closed off to tourists. Now we head over to Poland to check out Wieliczka salt mine. This mine has been in use in some form since the Neolithic times, with salt production starting as early as 1044. Excavation officially began in the 13th century, and the mine kept producing table salt until 1996, making it one of the oldest salt mines in the world. The maze of tunnels stretches over 178 miles and reaches depths of about 1,073 feet deep. You can visit the place today, and it's not just a mine. There's some incredible stuff to see. There's an underground lake and chapel, and tons of beautiful sculptures, all carved out of salt. Based on the images I've seen online, the place looks like something you'd see in a sword and sorcery movie. It's amazing. During World War II, the mine was repurposed by the Germans for war-related manufacturing, with forced laborers brought in to work underground. Naours is a charming little village in northern France, home to about 1,200 people, but just a short walk away, there's an ancient underground city that once housed around 3 times that number of people. The caves were hand-carved during the Middle Ages and stretch about 2 miles with over 300 rooms. The underground was built for villagers seeking shelter from invasions. It was made so that people could stay down there for long stretches of time. They built areas for livestock and water wells, and there were areas for people to gather and hang out. And here's a really cool thing about this underground city: there were bakeries. To keep the smoke from the ovens hidden, too, the chimneys were rooted through the houses above. So while the villagers baked bread down below, the invaders above would think people were still in their homes, and then would be very confused when they broke inside and saw that there was nobody there. The caves remained a secret until 1887, when they were rediscovered, and soldiers during both world wars took refuge here. In fact, you can still see graffiti and carvings left behind by Australian and British troops.